Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the Story Players podcast. I'm Winston Powell, otherwise known as Acorn Bringer, and I'm joined, as always, by Zach Snader, my good friend. How are you, Zach?
Hello. I am doing well, Winston Powell. Thank you very much.
Silently judging my intro again.
I'm not judging it. I'm not judging it. I was thinking we forgot to do a clap. That was the only thing going in my brain.
Oh, no. Honestly, like I haven't been using the clap while editing at all anyway.
Oh, all right,
so
perfect.
We almost don't need to. I can just do it with the waveform.
The clap.
All
right.
Yeah, we can. That's because I haven't edited those episodes yet, so I'm gonna be getting to the clap episodes soon, and we'll see if it even helps at all.
All right. Awesome.
Anyway, that's not interesting. That's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about video games.
This is super interesting. It's behind the scenes meat. This is how the sausage gets made, man. Behind the scenes meat.
Well, you gotta make it weird.
Not a great phrase to say out loud. I just realized. So
we've all got some
cut that out.
Meat.
We'll start the clap now.
No, it's locked in. I said the intro already. I'm not gonna do it again.
All right.
So, sheesh. Yeah, video games. Did you have you been as far as your gaming recently? Any gaming happening in the life of a 30-something-year-old father?
Man, I started a new temp job the last 2 weeks, so not really. I'm trying to think. Not really.
Phone games don't count. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, I mean, I play games of chess here and there, but
oh, that's right. You're a chess boy.
Yeah, it's easy to pick up. That's my I don't know. Oh, you know what? I have recently re-picked up Baba Is You.
Baba Is You.
Did you play Baba Is You at all?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite puzzle games of all time.
Baba, that's like grandma, right? Baba.
Yeah, like I think in Yiddish.
Look at this game.
Oh, you would love.
See like a dorky little cat.
Oh my gosh, it's so good though, dude. It's really inventive because it's so simple and it can get really complex.
It's a puzzle.
Basically, you're effectively like reprogramming the rules of the level using the blocks in the level, and it's I forget what the name is or the word for like the block pushing style of game. Pretty sure it's a Japanese word. But yeah, you're basically like in a level. You just move around one tile at a time and you push blocks. And anyway, super fun. And I think that was the first time I picked it up in like 2 years. And I beat some levels. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so smart. And that made me feel
you got
really
it on the
good
Switch or on Steam or something?
Yeah, on a Switch Lite.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looks cute.
It's very
I've heard
cute.
of it, but I haven't played it. Yeah, I don't know what those kind of games are called. Pushing blocks around, though. I have a friend.
Block pushers.
A brother of a friend of Bianca's made a block pusher style game, and it's because he's Brazilian, but they named it. It's all in English. All the indie game developers in Brazil, it's all like made in English. Like they all know English and stuff for the most part, because that's like the biggest market. And so he named it a pun. It's called So Fart Away, like fart.
I understood the pun.
It's like half a pun because So Fart Away is a play on words, but the game doesn't have anything like to do with being far away. You're just in a restaurant. I think he's an Italian guy. You're in a restaurant. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's you're trying to get to the bathroom in time.
See that makes
it's so
sense.
far away. So maybe it is a full thing.
That makes sense.
But it's a block pusher. I imagine, like, I played the demo of it. It's pretty clever. But he's like always like, because he's been working on this game for a couple years, I think, with his friends, and they're trying to get into award ceremonies and like indie like conferences and stuff to show the game off, but they keep getting turned down. And he's just like, I think it's because it's potty mouth stuff, like it's potty humor. I'm just like, that's so sad because it is a cool little game, like fart humor or whatever. Like, sure, there's an audience for that. It's not my cup of tea or anything, but the game itself is pretty endearing, and it is a block pusher. But yeah, I played that. It's probably the only block pusher I've ever played. So Fart Away, look it up. It's just funny hearing him talk about it because he's like, I'm like, how's your game going? He's like, yeah, we're trying to find a publisher for So Far Away, and he just says it like nonchalant. The joke is completely like run dry for him at this point.
Yeah, for sure. It only
he's just like, I've just got this.
Like, it has to work at launch Otherwise, it's so not worth it, you know? Because you say it over and over again, it just becomes devoid of meaning. I mean, that's how it is for any idea
That's for
that you work on.
everything,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
It's like of love and eternity, and then you work on it for 6 years. It's like, oh, this is really taking eternity.
You know what I heard that? Shut up. Yeah, that's the last thing I want to hear people saying. Like, of love and eternity, more like development cycle.
Well, I mean, but no one else is working on it the same amount of time that you are, right? They just play it when it comes out, and then that's it.
Yeah. I hooked up with my friend. I know we're just rambling, but I hooked up with my friend I haven't talked to in a while. And apparently for the past like 7 or so years, he's been working on his own indie project. It's like a solo project. And it's like, it's in like pre-alpha stage kind of. Mm-hmm. Like he's making a vertical slice sort of thing. And it just made me feel kind of nice that, because my game has been 5 or so years, or 6 even. I've been working on it full time. I have not been, but it just made me feel better. I've been hearing more and more indie developers saying like, yeah, I have this little pet project. I've been working on it for, the past however many years. And it's like, oh, thank goodness. It's not all just 1 or 2 years. Like some of us are also struggling. So it just made me feel a little better about myself.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, my topic is kind of inspired by that a little bit. Well, sort of was. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, why
don't we jump into it then?
For sure. I also feel similarly, because our studio just sort of pivoted.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know we talked about this a little bit, but yeah, right. Dude, like we put in 4 months of dev work roughly, and then tabled the game. Not canceled, but it's like, hey, this scope is too big for us right now. So when we do get an opportunity to come back to it, like how long is that going to take? But then it's kind of like all that time accrues at the same time, because it's not like it's gone. It's still there. It's just in the background. It's like, does that count as time? Like I feel that happens with a lot of projects. It just, you come up, you come to it, then you go away, and da-da-da.
That's the problem, is like people see like, oh, you've been working on this for 5 years. Like, no, I took like a 2-year break in between everything.
Right.
So like really it's been 3 years. So people don't care. They're like, oh, I saw this like, I don't know, like 4 years ago, and you're still working on it. It's like, well, stuff happened and I had to stop working, or we had to stop working. Mm-hmm. People don't have that context. Like most people who like games probably don't know that human beings make them.
Dude, yeah, like the
and at what cost?
I know. All the discussion around Concord recently made me think about that.
Dude, that's my topic.
Oh, all right, okay. I'll interesting, very.
That's
interesting.
So funny.
I love that you're going to bring that up. Okay, cool. Who wants to go first then? Because mine is not about Concord.
Well, we both have lead-ins now, but we teased yours first, so let's just talk about yours.
All right. Sounds good.
Do mine next. Yeah. So what's your topic?
All right. So I was listening to the No Clip Crewcast yesterday, and Jeremy Jane played this game called Basilisk 2000, and the core conceit of the game is like you're kind of playing as a game developer, and you're using like a fake game engine to kind of progress through the game. I haven't played the game yet, but the way he was describing it, it's like it wasn't quite what it seemed, right? And it made me think about...
I know this game developer.
Oh, really?
Kira.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Lost in Vivo. Yeah, everyone check out Lost in Vivo. It's like really cool. I mean, most people probably have.
Okay.
So Basilisk 2000. There's also,
Anyway,
I
really want to check it out. No, it's all good. I really want to check it out because apparently it's on itch too. But yeah, basically it made me think about subversion in games and how subversion, I don't know if I want to call it a trope more than like a mechanic or an idea, but it's becoming more common. And I think it's really cool that subversion of player expectations as an idea is being explored more commonly these days, because I think it can really push games to be more than what they are and really show just how complex an artistic experience can be just by looking at things through a different perspective rather than like having to pour tons and tons of resources into a thing. It's just like, how can we take this complex idea and turn it into this simple, I don't know, almost like a Rube Goldberg machine to get to this like desired effect of kind of mind fucking a player.
Is it, I'm just guessing, is it like kind of a fourth wall meta sort of subversive thing? Like I imagine, because it looks like if you're a game developer in the context of the game, looking at the code or whatever, looking at the models and the scenes and everything.
Without spoiling Inscription, I will say it seems like it's less fourth wall breaking than Inscription. If you played, did you play Inscription?
No.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
I haven't played anything.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm not
Inscription, the card game.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Did you play Inscription?
I can, huh?
You should play Inscription. It's really good. Inscription also does subversion of player expectations, but like Doki Doki Literature Club as well. I mean, I brought this up as a topic, and I'm hard pressed to think of examples, but I think that's just
No, that's okay.
I woke up and rolled into this podcast brain.
I actually think that this is we're seeing more of it, especially I think mostly in indie games, right?
Yeah.
Because I think most people had the idea, especially horror fans. Wouldn't it be cool if a game was marketed this way, but then when people came to play it, it started getting dark?
Yeah, totally.
So you have like this kids game, and then as you start playing it, it gets twisted at the end. And it totally just like messes with everybody. And I think that's like an idea a lot of people had. And because indie games, it doesn't have to be marketable necessarily. You can do risky things like that. And so that's probably why we're getting more of that sort of thing.
I'd argue that I would
imagine it's indie stuff.
I'd argue it still has to be marketable, but that's kind of the way of making a game marketable without having to be so explicit about it, right?
Well, like Inscription, it's going to get dark. You know that like stuff is going to get weird because of the way it looks.
I mean, sure, but
this other game, the Basilisk game, it like totally looks just like any kind of Unity sort of thing on a face value, like just looking at screenshots. It looks like, I'm in a little dev kit and it just playing with assets. Kind of looks like the Elder Scrolls dev kit, whatever that's called, the scene editor for like Oblivion or something. And then when you get in, I imagine you start seeing dead bodies or something, right? Or spooky things start happening as you're playing, or like glitches or whatever, right?
Yeah,
so that's not marketable. It's just that particular creator, he does horror stuff, so I imagine it's going to turn funny at some point.
Turn funny?
Silly, I mean. Funny, it's going to get a little hinky.
Haha, look at all these dead people. I mean, I don't know if that's what's in the game, but yeah, man,
this is all assumptions. I haven't played it.
It's just interesting that it seems more and more there's almost, I don't want to say it's like a reliance on subversion of player expectations, but it does seem to become like it's easy to get talking points out of subversion, right? Like when
for just like discussion points? Or?
Yeah, I think so. Because when you have a game that is going...
Oh, I see what you mean.
It has an uphill battle just by way of not having the same kind of resources as larger titles, but also has to set itself apart in a market where 1,400 plus, I mean probably even more now, right? Thousands of games are released across Steam and itch on a daily basis, and you have to set yourself apart from that. Like, how do you get players to notice you? How do you create the longest long tail for your game? And I'm not saying these games were designed with subversive tactics in mind specifically to address marketing needs, but I do also find it interesting that it's becoming more prevalent. And I don't know, maybe I have a question in my brain now of like, is it because it makes sense for those games? Is it because there's a greater need to set yourself apart in the market? Like, I wonder where that push is coming from.
Right. I see what you mean now with talking points. It's like people will talk about it afterwards and they'll give it more of a life afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, Subversion is a narrative tool, and it's been used since we've been telling stories. And it's usually like most quick jokes are all about subversion. So comedy, horror has a lot of subversion as well. it's been around forever. It's not like a new thing. The trend that you're seeing, though, I think might have something to do with the bang for your buck sort of thing. Just like you were saying, like indie games, they don't have that budget to really push their game, so they need kind of like a discussion point in their game. I'm not going to say that that's like an intentional thing, but it is a fun gag to play on the player. The player is going to be like, you have so much control over what they're thinking during the game. You can totally walk them into a corner and then pull the rug out from them.
Right.
And as a game developer, you have all that control to do that, and that's fun. And it also makes me think of film, especially horror films, where like an M. Night Shyamalan movie or something, like it's all about the twist at the end. Or I know that's like kind of cliched at this point, but like a lot of horror movies will have that cheesy kind of out of nowhere twist at the end, because it's just a narrative device. It doesn't require any extra funding to do. Like you just you just shuffle the deck a little bit. And I think that since there's so many indie developers, like it's so prevalent, I think a lot of indie developers see that little hook as like, oh, I could totally just do this now. Like we've built up all this expectation. Imagine if I did this and I could just easily implement this thing. Not easily. I don't want to say any of this stuff was easy, but I can see the draw. And now that I'm talking about it, I wonder if maybe like some of these developers were working on like a little side project and like, this is cool. Like I've got a functioning state. Now how can I sell it? And so like at that point they start injecting this kind of like falling action conclusion subversion thing into it. I don't want to generalize it. I imagine it comes from. Oh, what'd you say?
Like leaning more into it a little bit.
Yeah, just totally like putting it as that button, the icing on the cake or whatever. And that kind of adds like a level of interest to it. Because subversion is interesting because you want to create something that's surprising yet still makes a little bit of sense. And a lot of people have fun with that, and they love to see that sort of thing. And it's at pretty much no cost. It's a narrative thing. So, for the most part, it's a easy thing. I don't want to say easy. It's a what do I say without saying easy? No, I just mean it's a go-to that works.
Yeah,
it's been proven. I don't play a lot of games anymore, especially indie games. Unfortunately, I'd like to play more, but. I imagine that a lot of indies do this sort of subversion or subversive humor anyway. Like I imagine Undertale is really popular because it subverts expectations. It's totally out of the mold.
Yeah.
And what you're expecting from a kind of a NES style adventure game, right?
Yeah, I suppose that Undertale is an interesting example because it leans pretty heavily on doing that, like from the jump almost. Right? Like you get Alice in Wonderlanded into this world and then...
Yeah, I regret bringing it up because I actually haven't played it, but I know about it.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to spoil anything that doesn't happen in the first 5 minutes. Also, I've only played 45 minutes of that game, so...
you're the resident expert at this point.
I know, right?
You beat me out by 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's subversive in its own right. Like you come and expect this like throwback style game, like an NES type game, adventure game, kind of like even what it kind of its inspiration, or you could say that it drew a lot of its inspiration from Mother. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Earthbound, which in itself was Earthbound. Yeah. Which in itself was very subversive, and the humor was kind of off the wall there, sort of.
Yeah. I don't Sorry, I don't know how much depth I bring to this idea. More because I just like, I don't know. Is this something?
You think it's
like the butterfly
it's like a
flying
big trend.
Away meme, and it's like subversion. Is this a discussion topic?
I mean, it's interesting. I don't think it's
I'm
new.
noticing it more and more. Right, I'm noticing it more and more, and I think that's why it's interesting to call out at the very least. It's like,
I honestly think that's like
this?
the bread and butter for interest in a story is just being subversive. That's why I like in my game when you see the big messenger character, the big skeleton guy come up. He doesn't sound like the Crypt Keeper. He just sounds like a gentle soul sort of thing. That's kind of what I wanted. That was subversion in a very small kind of scale.
Yeah.
But those little crumbs you lead the player on with these things, like, oh, you're always surprising, and subversion is a way of surprising people.
See, you know what?
This sort of like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna just say, like, maybe you're kind of more perceiving this kind of like meta sort of.
I think I'm
fourth
just
wall breaking
realizing
stuff.
it. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
basically my talking point was a complete lack of awareness and knowledge on my part. Cause now that I'm thinking, it's like, oh yeah. And then the Forbidden City, like that was kind of what it leaned on. And that ended up being really successful. Like when it's, I don't know of any examples where it's not done well.
Like breaking the fourth wall stuff.
Yeah, just like, defying player expectations and presenting the player with something that they might not have expected that still fits thematically within the universe of that game, right?
I think it's still one of those like narrative tools. Like the fourth wall break is another one of those like people love to laugh at it. It's like having an in-joke in a movie, essentially.
Yeah,
like
but
you
fourth
get
wall
everyone
breaking
in on it.
it's not always done well, though.
Exactly.
It's not always funny or cool.
I can't. Well, we've tried this before, thinking of unsuccessful examples of things, and because in it, like in it of itself is you can't think of it because we forget about those things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Shit.
Like it's a victim of its own success / failure.
Yeah.
So that's why we can't think of any, because only the standouts are the good ones. But it's totally like a kind of a. I see it as like a bit of a cheap trick in some cases, just to make a quick reference or just look at the camera or something. Like it's cute, but it can definitely wear itself out.
Like,
you know what?
okay,
a bad example.
Deadpool. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say Dax. Dex. What's it called? That little lizard.
Gex.
Dex, I think. Gex. Yeah.
Gex.
Yeah,
Dude. Yeah. Totally.
He is always breaking the fourth wall. It's rarely like a hit, especially when you look at it nowadays. But I think back in the day, even it was just kind of like, I know that guy. I know that movie. I know that thing. Like I think it was just that, and that's why it's so cheesy or cheap. But it works because people are they want to be in on the joke. They want to have a little discussion with the creators, and that's kind of what that opens up.
Ooh.
But yeah, Deadpool, like people love Deadpool because he's just making commentary about Marvel stuff the whole time.
But
or just like making.
It was funny the first movie. I don't know. This is my opinion. It was funny the first movie, and then the second one was like still cool, but it was just like, oh, right, more of this. I wonder. I didn't see the third one, but I do wonder if like, especially after just the Marvel cycle has repeated over and over again, like, does it continue to work?
Well, that's the thing is like it kind of leans on the fact that Marvel stuff is getting stale, right? Because it can poke fun at it, and so it's perfect timing for a Deadpool movie. Is just to like come in, like through the ashes, and just start kicking the dead horses and stuff, and everyone can laugh at it. Like anyone can, anyone who likes those movies can relate to all those little jabs that he makes.
Yeah,
especially Deadpool fans. They're used to that. They like that stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember this. I saw the second movie, but I don't remember much about it.
I don't. I'm getting the first and the second movie mixed up in my head, so I couldn't tell you anything about them.
The first one's pretty like straightforward, actually. Like I forgot how I watched it on the airplane over here on the ride, and it's surprising how condensed it is. It almost feels like an indie movie.
I think it
because it's so low scope.
Almost.
Maybe, yeah.
But hey, I don't really have much more about this topic, honestly. So we could move on. I'm pretty okay.
Wow,
that
was the quickest. That was the quickest.
I
topic.
know. See, you just don't know where these are gonna go. I think I ran out of juice on the Subversion one pretty quickly, just because it was like Subversion, and it's like big Helvetica letters in my brain. And I think it would be, man. It seems like it would be more fun to explore from a design perspective rather than like an evaluative one, if that makes sense.
Like a game design?
Yeah, like actually thinking about how you would go about creating those kind of design challenges rather than talking about Subversion as an idea.
Yeah, because Subversion is all around us. And I think that it's such a commonplace in when you're talking about cheap thrills and like the movie industry, it's all about subversion. It's all about that little twist at the end and or little surprises here or there. But in games, because games are so immersive, that subversion comes at like kind of a higher value.
Yeah.
It gives a higher value because you get the characters situated and you get them understanding the world, and you can just totally change things around or mess with their expectations. It's kind of like that Stanley Parable. Like I think that was a lot of that was like that fourth wall breaking subversion sort of thing. Like people were just so surprised how the game could kind of, you know, it was following the story with the player. Like it was following along with their actions and everything. And it just kind of makes you realize like, wow, I don't really have a lot of freedom at all. Like nothing is real. Well, at least as someone, a developer looking in on the game. Maybe a player is like, wow, magical. He's talking about what I'm doing. But a game development designer is just like, yeah, you've been told what to do this whole time. And he's just saying the lines, like, because we knew you were going to at least do one out of these 3 different things. But yeah. Anyway, it's a topic. I'm not very creative as far as like design goes, so I don't know how much I could just like.
What?
I don't imagine I could subvert expectations that well. Like,
don't.
I'm sure that this Basilisk game. I imagine this Basilisk game is pretty genius if you played it. I know the developer is pretty creative.
Yeah, I definitely
with the horror background.
Definitely want to.
Yeah, look up Lost in Vivo. It's worth. I think it's like $2 or something.
All right.
Totally worth it. It's a good one. Very creepy. One of the last probably the last indie horror game I actually played, which is kind of sad because I played it like 3 years ago.
Sewer system. Okay.
Yeah, you lose your dog. It gets like swept away by rainstorm or something, and you have to go chase after it in the sewer.
Love it.
And it's pretty cozy too, actually. Like it's got all that stuff. Like
you think horror is cozy though?
Well, it's got those moments like the save room is a cozy little spot, and there's music that's nice, and you know when you're going to go into a room that's going to be scary and sad. And all the moments around those, you can kind of just chillax and enjoy the ambience and stuff.
Right on. All right, shall we talk about Concord?
Yeah, maybe you didn't
like.
Maybe you didn't have like a grand slam on your topic because you were like, ooh, I want to talk about Concord actually.
I mean, nah, not.
Did you play Concord? I need that context first. If you played it,
I
didn't play it either. I don't have $40. Who has $40 to play a free game?
Well, it wasn't a free game. It was a $40 game.
I know, but isn't that the discussion? Like, it should have been free. Isn't that sad when people?
Yeah, but
they get this beautiful like AAA game that's fun or whatever, and they're just like, it should have been free instead. And it should have had in-app purchases to pay for everything, but it also shouldn't have in-app purchases.
I'm trying to think of a perspective in which to discuss Concord that is not so rote and already rehashed at this point.
Well, my topic isn't quite that. I can actually just say my topic.
Great.
So we can
let's do that.
But we can.
Oh yeah. Also,
we'll talk about the surroundings.
Okay,
as well
I call it Concord because you probably all call it Concord for the same reason. Because the game is called Concord, but I lived in Concord, California, and there's a Concord in Connecticut or New Hampshire or something, right?
Concord. I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Concord. It sounds familiar.
I don't know if it's Concord. But anyway, whatever. Fuck it. Literally doesn't matter. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Cool.
What is the context in which you are presenting this to us?
All right. So obviously neither of us have played the game, but we both know about it, and we probably both know about it because of YouTube thumbnails, right? And
I mean,
the majority
I've listened
thumbnails
to,
I've seen,
like podcast discussion about it.
Oh, podcasts.
And read some news stories.
Right. So this is kind of, I guess this might be a shallow topic as well, but my perception of the game is essentially that it just completely failed and flopped right out the gate. And I know that's not true, but that's my perception because of YouTube thumbnails.
Why do you say that's not true?
I can't imagine it's that cut and dry. Like one of the biggest game developers published and launched this thing. I'm sure thousands of people played it, and I'm sure it would do fine if it was given a different public sentiment. And my topic of discussion is that it's basically if people didn't drag these games down with them, like right off the gate, out of the gate, people were already skeptical because it's another hero shooter. This should have been something else. Like it should have been more innovative. So already people are kind of sour on the whole thing. But the game is beautiful. It looks fun enough, and it's got like high production value. And I'm sure it's fun. You know, like I'm sure it's satisfying. It's a shooter. We know how to do shooters nowadays. But people like take these little like kind of meta topics like oh, it shouldn't be a hero shooter or in-app purchases or these like hot button topics that they start like kind of piling on. And now that it's launched, it's not free. It's got a pretty high price tag, actually, $40. That's a pretty high asking point for a multiplayer shooter with limited single player options.
None, I think.
I think it has like a kind of a basic single player thing you can do. So then you start getting the sentiment is like lowered, right? But I think that to the extent that we're seeing shouldn't be justified. I think that it's really because people start dogpiling, and it's like all the discussion I see on YouTube is this game failed, and the moment you start seeing conversations about a multiplayer game failing, you start losing players because they're like, oh, I'm not going to buy it. I heard it's failing, and and I'm not, and I think that drags a game down. I think that's actively hurting the public perception. Whereas if people simply change their tone about it, I feel like the game would have a longer tail. I don't know how long it's going to last now. There's no way for me to be proven right or wrong, because like it's just a matter of what's going to happen, like whatever's inevitable.
I mean, they shut it down already as of, I think,
Are you serious?
Today. Yeah.
Oh my god.
You didn't see
That's
the
so
latest
sad.
thumbnail? Yeah. No,
No.
Dude, Sony put out a post. Sorry, I thought you knew that.
Damn.
Dude. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hot topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's so sad. I can't stand that.
That's
sad.
Okay, so I had the thought that you're discussing pass into my brain at one point while I was like taking in the Concord discourse, because I had a similar thought of like, they worked on this for 6 years, and after 2 weeks, Sony's gonna kill this thing. Like, what the fuck?
That's tragic. Damn.
Insane,
Damn,
dude. It's just crazy. Yeah. Like, however many estimated, 9-figure dollar sums were spent on this thing. You acquire a studio. Sure. It's a studio making their first game. Like, can you imagine how demoralizing it would be to work at Firewalk right now? Like, I feel so deeply for those devs, because my God, man, you invest 5 days a week, if not more, thinking about this thing and putting creative energy into it. And I'm not saying that should justify people buying a game. Not at all.
I don't
know. No. Effort does not mean that people, dude, I'd be a fucking millionaire if that were the case, right?
If effort equaled money.
Exactly. I think what's
You're always
more
making effort sounds.
I don't know how to perceive that. No, man, it's that they spent all their time and energy on this thing that creatively had a middling reception, right? And rather than just outright kill the thing, like, if you were to distance yourself from that meta, is there a way to take this experience and turn it into something that has a longer tail? But to your point, if the perception is not there to reinforce that this thing might have a tail at all, then as the studio that is publishing this thing is like, does it really make sense to continue investing into it? And then it becomes a math problem, right? So the sentiment influencing the math, that's kind of where we're at these days. Like, you cannot trick people into playing a shitty game, or a middling one for that matter, the way that you were able to a long time ago. Like, I bought Project Snowblind for PS2 at a GameStop because I thought the cover looked cool, and it was like fine, right? But that's not happening. I mean, it's like it's a spy shooter from 2000 whatever.
It does look cool.
It was fine. It was fine, right? It was a solid B game, 7 out of 10, whatever. But you cannot do that anymore. You just can't, right? Because if that's the game, that's the perception you're going to get, and then this is the outcome you're going to get, and this is the life cycle of games now. So
no, it's totally, like you said it before. You told me, like, by a large margin, most people by a large margin, there's
Why?
people learn about games. People learn about games through YouTube more than any other platform, by a wide margin. Yeah, by a lot. It's a long shot.
There you
Like
go.
I saw that graph you sent me.
Right.
And if the thumbnails are talking like negativity, if the because people got to be hyperbolic on YouTube to get viewers, so there's already a weird meta to that platform. And so when you start talking about stuff that's affecting other people's sales in a hyperbolic way, like there's no middling games anymore. There's no sevens that 7 out of 10 that kind of stay around. It's either going to be a trash game. I'm using quotes, trash game, because I don't say that. Or, a god tier game, another quote, another thing I don't say. So like you don't get that beautiful middle ground where most cool games live. And I feel like that could have totally been Concord. Like it's for people who like, because it's a beautiful game. I love the art direction. I love the menu systems, all the transitions, the way the game looked. It had this really cool, like, that classic paperback sci-fi novel look to it. And I think there was a lot of stuff there. I'm sure the artists kind of, they broke their backs over the whole thing, and a lot of very talented people worked on it. And the game design looked fun. It looked fine. Like, I'm not a big hero shooter guy. So, like, wherever that lands you on a true virtuous, scale of 1 to 10, like no one, I don't know if I can even say that, like everyone's scale is going to be different, but wherever that puts you, when you start promoting your game, and you have like kids and enthusiast press on YouTube talking about it in their specific flavor, which is usually just yelling and being annoying and being like dramatic about one or the other thing, you start losing that audience that could potentially have bought the game because that looks like it's for me. Instead you get like people who are just like, oh, like 40, like the price tag. Yeah, Sony's responsible for like not reading the room and pricing it wrong and not monetizing it properly for this day and age. $40 like is spicy for when there's all the other examples in that genre are free, and there's other price points like in-app purchases or whatever you call it.
Okay, just to riff off of that, you do have me wondering if the game was priced free, like it would not have changed the quality of the game, right? The game's quality is what it is, which appears to be like a middling shooter at best, according to people who've played it, who've talked to this. Again, neither of us have played this game. But if it was free, as opposed to getting more people to try it, would that also lead to more people being willing to stick with the game as well? And would that have given the game a robust enough ecosystem to at least get to the point where maybe it could have had a longer lifespan?
You just have to see, like, when you go free, like when you're talking about free, you reach not just like twice as many more people. You reach most of the world, like at that point.
I mean, if they're willing to play the game.
No. I just mean like people are looking for the next
accessibility
thing, and even on YouTube, like people need to play. They have to play Concord to like stay on top of their game, as far as being a content creator, right? People are gonna play it. It's free. It's great. Like that's such a like swinging factor, especially like coming from Brazil. Most games, like a $40 game in Brazil, like do the math, and that's going to be 5 times more expensive.
I mean,
unless they scaled it.
Price it, yeah. You can still price it locally, whatever.
But some people don't do that. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it cost them. But some publishers just don't do that. They just price it with the exchange rate. But making it free, you suddenly get an entire country interested in it, and that counts for all the countries in the world. Like everyone can play a free game. And you start getting more people playing it. You start getting more like buzz around it. You get memes being made, like fun videos propagating. Like there's a whole like extrapolation factor to it being available for everyone, because then suddenly everyone's like in on the joke or in on the discussion. Whereas like when it's 40, the only discussion point is like, those bastard developers, like how dare they charge for the game?
But
that becomes the sentiment around it.
I don't know.
Because when it's free, there's like a good faith there.
I'm still yes, but the game still has to be there too, right? Because if the game's not there, then ultimately the price point's not going to matter. Like with Overwatch,
I just haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anyone talking about how bad the gameplay is.
That's because it's supposedly not bad. It's just not, in a world
That's
where
the thing. It's not
Black Ops
bad,
6
but it's not $40 good.
Right, totally.
I think that's it.
Not $40, not $40, and I'm going to add this live service shooter into my repertoire. Good.
Right.
Like this is where I'm going to spend my time, right? Because Overwatch, the reason that Overwatch was successful, I mean, Overwatch was just really tight. It was just tight gameplay. Like that formula, they figured it out and they did it incredibly well. The characters were fun to play. They enabled people to find roles and specialize into those roles and have proper mains and do all that. But in addition to, and that Overwatch was a paid game, but like it was also a more acceptable climate, or amenable, I guess, climate for that kind of thing to happen. But Overwatch did also end up getting this hype machine built around it with esports. I mean, it came off the back of what was Titan at Blizzard, right? And you had like cinematics and all these big promises. Well, yeah, and then like porn eventually drove the Overwatch's reach as well to some degree, I'd imagine, right? I don't have the metrics on that, but I'm sure it didn't hurt. And Overwatch was able to sustain for a long time. And then Battleborn died off very quickly, right? And then between Overwatch 1 coming out and now, you have Fortnite, you have PUBG rising up, you have Apex Legends, you have Roblox continuing to grow in its reach, you have Minecraft continuing to grow, and you have Call of Duty still doing Call of Duty things. So you have all of these other landmark titles that are taking up a lion's share, not just of overall gaming time, but an even bigger slice of the pie of live service game playing time, right? And if you're not coming into you start on a game 6 years ago, right? And the landscape has completely shifted within that time. So if you're not able to either future seek and like really project out what the landscape is going to look like, nor are you in a position to be able to adjust with the times, then of course, if what you have now is based on design principles from 6 years ago, then like you're kind of fucked. And that's why the sentiment is there. Like it might have been, I've seen comments about like, yeah, it might have been a great shooter 6, 7, 8 years ago. And like, I totally believe that. But the landscape in which Concord exists is just not suitable to its survival. So the sentiment and the player sentiment has become such a core part of why people will pick up a new live service game. I mean, forget single player games, like that is still true, but with live service games it's even more true because it's a social activity inherently. And if you don't have that socialization, you are not going to get off the ground at all. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it would have done better, even if the sentiment was not negative, right? Because at some point, like, what does neutrality get you? Maybe you have a small community and it becomes forgettable over time. Like Splitgate had a lot of positive traction, then just kind of stuck with its niche, and then they ended up shutting it down, Like Foam Stars, also pretty neutral, and they're going free to play, and like, I don't know, man. I would hate to make a live service game right now thinking with the same modality that people have been thinking about live service for a long time. And I think if any, sorry, just to close out here, if anything, I think the thinking around how live service games are made needs to change, right? Forget Concord as a game with the mechanics that has whatever. The model needs to be different for anyone to coexist in this space with the established players.
Yeah, I suppose that the sentiment is just a result of the product, in whether that has to do with the price of it or the design of it. Like the sentiment is going to come after that anyway, so it's a result. I just thought it was blown out of proportion.
It is definitely exaggerated. It's exaggerated in this era more than any, for sure.
I just think that's unfortunate. But you mentioned the launch of Overwatch, and that was back when there weren't a whole lot of examples of hero shooters, because it was kind of innovating on the hero. What are those called? Like StarCraft, or League of Legends and stuff.
Yeah,
it's sort of like a first-person version of those,
more
right?
more a MOBA than an RTS, for sure.
Right. And so that in itself was an innovative idea, and I think at the time it was fresh, and so charging for it made a lot of sense. Like, and also back then we were just kind of figuring out the free-to-play type sort of thing. Like, I can't quite remember how far back it was, but I imagine like PUBG and stuff came after Overwatch. Is that right or wrong? No, I can't remember.
I think
Actually, no.
PUBG
PUBG's a bad
Overwatch.
example because that wasn't free anyway. I guess I'm just thinking of all the other battle royale things that came out that were free after that.
Smite was was Smite free? Smite might have been free. That was more of a MOBA though, but it was like an action MOBA.
But yeah,
don't know.
fact that they kind of the launch of this seemed kind of similar to what they were probably thinking back when Overwatch came out, which obviously we're a few years separated from that.
Right.
And I guess they were just thinking that the game would just blow people away, and it would. I mean, I don't know like the conversations that the developers had with Sony, but there must have been a lot of faith in that the game is quality, would just offer so much content. Like they even had like weekly like animations they were gonna do. Like
yeah,
what
they were
the
gonna
heck?
do weekly story cutscenes, which is I kind of love that idea, but only if it's executed well.
Well, you gotta like the characters. They seemed all right. The characters,
right?
People love those types of things. Like it looks like a Marvel movie essentially, right? Or like Guardians of the Galaxy. You could just keep putting them on screen. I'm talking about Marvel characters. As long as they're on screen being them, people are gonna eat that up. And I think they wanted a little bit of that, like a Guardians of the Galaxy sort of like freshness between the crew, to endear yourself to the characters.
But that okay. I think the only problem with that idea is the fact that that's the only story involvement at all. Like you.
Well, I mean, does Overwatch even have story stuff?
Not in game.
Like their storytelling's
really?
through dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, the storytelling. They have like stuff on YouTube you can watch, like vignettes, that kind of thing.
Right.
But
kind of like Team Fortress had.
Yeah, in game it's very story light. Team Fortress went way further than Overwatch ever did.
Team Fortress 2, like kind of a proto hero shooter, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Oh man, that game was so good. It still is good. It's still going on.
It's
right?
still good. Still going.
That was a paid game, right? That used to be paid, and then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess Deadlock also came out.
What was it?
Deadlock.
Deadlock.
Valve's new hero shooter action MOBA kind of thing. That's like Dota-esque.
Deadlock.
Yeah.
Is that an old game?
Blew up. No. It blew up recently.
I'm so out of it. Here we are talking
I know.
about freaking games on a podcast where we talk about games, and I don't know any video games.
That's all right. Yeah, I mean, Paragon kind of came and went, but Epic's known for killing games anyway. Yeah,
Ooh, it looks pretty, Deadlock.
Is there a world in which this game was successful? I think the answer is no, regardless of player sentiment. That's my honest read. Just looking at the game being played, seeing what it is, and more importantly, seeing what it isn't, in a time where it probably needed to be and do different things.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about
just the reality, dude.
I wish I knew more about what like MOBAs actually offered people, because for me, like I don't play that type of game, and I feel like if I had more context, I could probably answer that question a little better. Because to me, it looked like a fun. Like I played Overwatch, and it was like satisfying. Like it was tight, you know. Like I could feel that there was something there. And I never, I didn't get to play any other hero shooters because I'm just not interested in that sort of thing. Except for Team Fortress, of course. Team Fortress 2.
Well, as a former top 20% Zarya on PlayStation 4.
Zarya?
Yeah, it's the Overwatch character. I'm just being an idiot.
An Overwatch character named Zarya.
Yeah.
That's how like out of the loop I am.
No. No, I mean I used to play Overwatch in League, and like I enjoyed MOBAs for a time in my life, and like I kind of grew out of it, but it's the same reason that people play Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever else. Like it is fun to be in a competitive game where you can be competitive, especially if you can be competitive with friends. Like, dude, I played Call of Duty, hella Call of Duty when I was in high school. Like my friends and I, we'd go to each other's houses to play Call of Duty, or we'd log on to Xbox or PlayStation or whatever and just like play online together. And that experience is still I mean, not just like core to being a game player, but it's essential to the game's ecosystem. And that's where all these successful live service games are thriving, is they're able to create those social experiences at scale and keep those fun over time, right? So
I mean, you just make me feel like if Concord was free, you'd get all your buddies on at no cost, and it would totally
but the game's,
like propagate.
I don't know, man.
We
like,
can't speak to the game's quality because I heard it was just fine. Like I heard it played well. Like I heard it was fun to play.
But is it?
From
But that's
people
the
I
thing.
heard
Like,
play.
is it better than these things that people are already playing? And that's where I think a lot of this failure on the publisher side has really come in. Is like, Sony shadow drops this new IP trailer after 5 years in development, right? At Summer Games Fest, and yeah, everyone's like, oh, we have Guardians of the Galaxy at home. Like, again, 6 years ago, hey, that might have landed a little bit better. Like, oh,
Right,
an
I
alternative to Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, that's so sick. But then that wears. Especially with Marvel doing Marvel's thing, and then you tease the game at the end, right? And people see it's a hero shooter, and the reception is middling. You have to be shitting your fucking pants, right? Because, dude, 5+ years and the reception to that is lukewarm. Fuck, like that has to feel terrible. And what can you realistically do about that within the time between that moment and going to launch? I do think Sony as a publisher kind of fucked up there quite a bit, because they really needed to recalibrate. As soon as they hit that like middling reception to the initial trailer, then you have to be like, okay, let's figure out a really solid go forward launch plan, because what we had before clearly wasn't met with. I'm sure they had higher expectations for it. There's no way they couldn't have, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have released it.
I can't imagine them like. I mean, I can imagine, that they probably played with the price a whole lot.
Oh, for sure.
Like it wasn't just like 5 years ago where like it's gonna be a $40 game and they just stuck with it. But at the same time, like if they told their investors they're selling this game for $40 and we plan to reach this many people, you can't then launch it for free if it doesn't have any like kind of, what do you call it? I just keep calling it in-app purchases. I don't think that was microtransactions.
Yeah, microtransactions. Same thing.
I hate referring to video games as apps. I hate that. I got some cool apps
software,
on my computer. Remember when it was applications?
I have some apps. I downloaded this Concord app onto my Xbox. It's $40.
That's
though.
a cool
it's really
app.
expensive for an app.
That's a cool app, yeah. Just like meeting the dev. Yeah, Concord was a cool app.
Dude, even okay, you know what? Let me
Not quite as good as Subway Surfer, but still pretty cool.
Let's see. 200 million divided by 40. Right. So just break even before you even take into account literally anything else. This is not taking into account taxes or platform fees on Steam or whatever, right? You have to sell 5 million. Oh yeah, right. All the investment, effort, marketing, whatever that you might have invested. Let's say it was $200 million. You need to sell 5 million units of this thing, right?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's going to be live service, and you don't have ongoing free-to-play model trappings built in. Is my understanding. I don't know if they offered paid cosmetics or what, but 5 million units, right? If your reception after Summer Games Fest is, not sure, we have Guardians at home, all that, like, you better find a fucking way to push 5 million units of this thing. Because, like, how are you going to do that when people's reaction is, meh? That's not going to happen. You can't just shit out a really high-quality product and expect 5 million people to buy it. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. And for them to not
the numbers are there for the other hero shooters out there, like, they're making those numbers. And so I think that's just what they're thinking.
Yeah, Overwatch 2, I hesitate to say it is. I have a feeling that Marvel not Heroes, is that I don't even remember what the new Marvel one that's coming out, right? I don't know, man. Like all these games are coming out at a time where this genre as a whole is kind of fading, right? Deadlock is
That's what I was
interesting.
thinking though, like because you're right, people are tired of this genre, this trend. They're tired of it, and like they've kind of run it ragged, playing their own like whatever they're if they're into Apex Legends, if they're into Overwatch or something. I feel like they've been there, done that, and I think maybe that's what Sony was thinking. Like that genre has kind of fizzled out. Let's like throw a bomb in the room and see how people like that. And then like something fresh, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe it just wasn't fresh enough. Like maybe they thought they had something really fresh on their hands.
Man,
I mean, as far as hero shooters go, they all look the same to me. The art direction for this I thought was interesting. So it at least looked a little different. The way it played was probably very similar to all the other ones. And yeah, so I think instead of them taking advantage of the fizzling genre popularity, they kind of just got like swept away with that trend getting less popular.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No, for sure.
I don't know.
I mean, Deadlock seems like it's going to be fine. This Concord makes me wonder how Smite 2 is going to perform. Like, are they just going to get more of the Smite audience? Like, who?
I wanted to ask, before you keep naming games I've never heard of before.
Sorry.
I guess Smite is Smite was the that one competing with Overwatch from before, right? Back in the day.
Yeah,
is that right?
Competing with League, but yeah. Sorry, I'll try not to.
But what are the hero shooters people are playing now? Are people really still like on Overwatch every day, or people like what is going on right now?
I don't know, man. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Overwatch 2 does not, from what I last remember, did not seem to be performing as well as Overwatch 1, despite being free to play. At least over a long enough time horizon, right?
What do I see? Like, if I scroll through YouTube, like what are people actually playing? Like I'm so disconnected from games now.
I don't know. I'm also
idea
fairly disconnected. Just to be clear, but I keep up with like industry reporting, right? So this is where I'm just regurgitating to some degree. Anecdotally, it just doesn't seem like this is the time for a hero shooter, right? I think I can make that blanket of an observation at the very least.
Then what would be better as a genre? I wonder. Like, what are people playing? I'm scrolling through my YouTube looking for what people are playing. I've been looking up drawing tutorials, so that's all I'm seeing.
I don't know, man. This is kind of where I'm at, though. Is like I don't think the game is like to some degree. Yes, Concord as a game is the problem, but I think if you can just take an established genre and like do something new with it, gameplay wise, that gets people talking, and then you can innovate on the live service model a little bit, then maybe that's something. But to keep coming out with tried and true formula, it's rote at this point. It's not tried and true anymore like it was for
there was
a
definitely
time.
like just looking at the gameplay, looking at just the initial trailer that came out. It had character, obviously, like all those CG cutscenes, they have character. Like that could be a cool movie even. Like the Overwatch ones, they had that too.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, as far as the gameplay goes, like the moment-to-moment action that the players actually experience, there wasn't that like outstanding thing. It was very, as pretty as it was, as good as I'm sure it played, as cool as it must have felt, like it really was missing a hook. It was just such a stale-looking product. And I don't mean that like the way the art was. I just mean like it looked very. You knew exactly what it is. You knew exactly what you were getting into. There was nothing like, oh, and then in the middle of a match, a giant monster comes and everyone has to fight the monster all of a sudden. Like nothing new happened.
Right.
There's like, oh, he's throwing a sphere shield or whatever. Oh, he's shooting a guy. Like, oh, he's healing the other guy. We've been there. We've done that. We know all this stuff. It's just basically at that point a texture pack for Overwatch. Which is just like,
man, yeah, kind of. I appreciate that they took it seriously because they needed to, right? Like any game needs to, because you have to do that with your art. Because if you don't take it seriously, no one else will. The problem is, it was so self-serious without realizing that it needed to be something different. Because it's
I'm sure the design was innovative. I'm sure there was all kinds of cool little details they changed. Like, oh, instead of doing this, we're doing this instead. Mm-hmm. Remember this from the old games? Like, we're not doing that now. Like little things that probably bug like diehard fans. But like as an outsider, it needed that like something.
It needed
different.
juice, man.
It needed a hook.
It needed maybe a different flavor of juice. Like it's plenty juicy, but needed some different kind of juice in there. My biggest concern in all of this is that Sony takes away the wrong message, and that developers take away the wrong message as well, which is that they should not invest in new IP. I know we've talked about this before, but my God, dude, think about the math on this. Even if the development was estimated to be $100 to $200 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how many projects Sony could have taken moonshots on with established studios. Even Firewalk,
like indie
dude.
projects even.
Like split Firewalk into 6 teams and just see what they can do. We need to double find the entire fucking industry at this point, because this shit is ridiculous. Like the massive AAA thing not working out is just, it's not sustainable for games, man. It's bad. Like it's bad for players at the end of the day, because if the platform holders suffer, then everything that touches those entities is going to suffer as a result, and it just leads to a weaker ecosystem.
Yeah, seeing these big projects flop like this, like these behemoth multi-million-dollar projects, and I kind of feel like indie games at this point they're the ones that got staying power now. Like these indie projects that get launched, they're the ones that are going to stick around. Like if you do the numbers on it, like how many games does Devolver publish a year? And how many games does like Sony or Microsoft, the big boys, how many do they publish or fund or whatever? And how many actually stick around? I bet you it's pretty similar as far as earnings are concerned. Like, sure, maybe Sony gets like 5 games that stick around, like, the big AAA ones. I'm not talking about like...
well, I mean, Spider-Man and God of War can offset that for years, though, still.
But that's the thing, like, those are 2 games, whereas like Devolver's has this buckshot of games, and they probably make, I don't know...
Devolver's not making
scale.
Devolver's public. You could look it up. I don't think they're making billions of dollars a year.
No. I just mean scale it down to the amount of people who work at Devolver and the amount of, like,
right.
But compare, like, if you scale it back, like a percentage wise, I bet you Devolver's just a healthier company. Like, and Sony's around because they're selling consoles and tech as well, like hardware and stuff. And so that's kind of hard to like judge that, because Devolver just launches games and maybe sells T-shirts. I don't know, but like. Yeah, I think that just really speaks to the indies, and new IPs, and just trying new things and investing in things that are different. Because we just got done talking about how something that looks samey just can't swing it anymore. It just doesn't work.
Man, it's just like, it's so weird to me that this first party push continues to happen, continues to be met with middling success. We continue to have the same live service games thriving over and over again, propping up the whole fucking charade. And the future certainly feels like it should be indie-led, right? Where you just give more studios more opportunities to do more creative things, including live service titles, and just see it. Like the foundation needs to be torn from the ground, and we need to replant just new soil and get some new roots in there, because everything is just fucking rot at this point. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating because of the waste of time and energy and potential, just because the people making decisions behind this stuff have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, which is like, that's why I'm so frustrated with the state of venture capital investment in games. I mean, God, every time I look at a LinkedIn post from someone at A16Z, I want to punch a fucking wall, dude. I swear to God. And these people are the ones with the power and the control over the direction of the future of this industry. And it's like, why? Fucking
Here's the
why,
thing.
man?
I want you to feel a little better. I'll give you a little bit of a perspective that might help. Basically, we see these like flops coming out. They've been in the works for years. And they're coming from a place that is like chasing trends or going with the most viable products and stuff. And so there's a delay to that. We're getting projects that feel stale because they are stale, because they were released in a safe way. Like Sony's publishing these games that are very safe, and they're generally going to be hits. And it's because they're at a delay. They're not seeing the innovation. They're not wanting to innovate. But a AAA game that did come out recently, that was a new IP, a single player game on top of everything, that just did gangbusters, was Black Myth Wukong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the industry was shooken by it.
Shaketh.
And we're yet to see the kind of the benefit of that influence over the industry, because now Sony is probably thinking, like, what did our new IP do wrong? And comparing and contrasting and saying, okay, they released this ridiculously popular, like, new IP from another, like, from China, and it's just like totally outside the mold of what you usually see. I mean, sure, it's a third person action fighting game, but it's innovative in a lot of different ways and very different from what we usually see. I think they're going to see all that, compare and contrast, and then in a couple years, two things are going to might happen. We're either going to see just copied monkey featured protagonists, or we're going to see these big people saying, okay, people like innovation, they like new projects, they like fresh things.
Man, that would be nice.
Or they're going to just keep doing hero shooters. There's a third part.
Black Myth Wukong, Overwatch.
Black Myth Wukong, the heroes unite, legends, whatever.
I mean, even Black Myth Wukong, as like the gameplay is derivative of Souls likes, I guess modern Souls
like
likes to some degree, right?
I think it's simpler. Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean, it's present. I think it's presentation without having played it, just seen it. Like the presentation is very impressive. Like it's highly cinematic. It just looks like a cool world to be in. Right?
Yeah, I did not, especially for us.
Yeah, I did not get the same feeling from Concord when I watched this trailer. I'm like, I have seen this world and it does not offer any mystique or anything. Why should I invest into it? But Black Myth Wukong, granted, I also played Dynasty Warriors growing up, so the Three Kingdoms, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like I thought was really cool. But still, like, okay, this feels like culture, you know? This feels like I can get something that might emotionally resonate with me. Whereas, like, look at this quick drawing cowboy. He loves hot sauce. I loves hot sauce. Let's be friends and play for 6 months. Like, nah, dude, that ain't happening, you know? So, I don't know.
Well, let's hope that they take a good message away from at least that, because that, honestly, like you said, they were projected to get 5 million, or they to be profitable needed 5 million. How much did Black Myth?
If the investment for the game really was $200 million, the break even would be higher than this, because it's just a simple division by 40. But 5 million just gets those numbers to line up without taking into account actual accounting, like platform fees, like taxes, like ongoing maintenance, like additional marketing costs, like all of these things, right? So you're looking at closer to 10, 15, well, maybe 10 to like break into profitability, possibly. 10 million fucking people is a lot of people. That's a lot of people to play a brand new IP, let alone a hero shooter. And just, wow, man. I'm also hopeful that everyone takes the right message away from this. But I have also seen, I've seen the world, buddy. I've seen the world. Please support your indie developers, because my God, we need more basilisks and less Concords, you know?
Definitely less Concords. I don't know how marketable Basilisk is, though.
Look, man, at least it is different.
But for people wondering, I just looked up. This is a Reddit post from 2 days ago. I don't know how. Let's see if this is confirmed here. Apparently, 18 million sales of Black Myth Wukong.
Oh, okay. I was going to say of Concord. Like what?
No.
18 million of Black Myth Wukong. That's pretty incredible.
And that's a $60 game or $70 game, right? So that was a resounding success. And
yeah, I mean,
definitely shifting some eyeballs on the higher ups, the big fat cat cigar chompers. I'm sure they're looking at it and thinking things. And in the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing something.
Yeah.
Whether it's innovative, we don't know, but it's definitely going to be influenced by this for sure. Because that's a huge number from a relatively unknown studio as far as I can understand.
Yeah, from my understanding, a lot of those sales came from China or like some percentage of them, but I don't know.
Yeah, but that's sales.
What is
Those are
what is it
sales.
exactly?
That's part of the
right?
market.
Like, what does it matter? I mean, are they juicing the numbers? If they're juicing the numbers, that's a totally different equation. But like, if it's a Chinese developer that's releasing a game based on Chinese lore and mythology, like, yeah, it would make sense that a lot of those game sales are coming from China. Like,
Yeah, but
it's endemic to that
the
market.
Chinese market they've been buying games this whole time, so they're part of the market.
Yeah,
It's not like
also it's like
just
not
Chinese people, but no, that's part of the market. They should be appealing to those people as well.
Yeah, and it's fucking hard to release a game in China. Like, it's not just like, okay, gonna go to Steam, publish a game. Like, it ain't that, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah, they have a
Props-
different internet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, props to the studio for making that work. Maybe there's a whole topic in there of like reporting.
Well, it is a Chinese
but,
studio, so
yeah,
they probably
yeah,
just had.
But
this is like, I think the Chinese, like, yeah, it's a whole other topic, but the Chinese games market, I think we're going to start seeing a whole lot more of. Sony in particular has been putting a lot of efforts into publishing Chinese-made games, and I think that there was something said that after what game was it? Was it Genshin? There's some game that released that like promoted. Maybe I'm not thinking about China. Maybe I'm thinking about Taiwan or South Korea. Anyway, that like side of the world, I think there's going to be a lot of investors and stuff looking at the games industry now because of these huge successes. Like, they've been hitting grand slams this whole time.
yeah,
And it's going to be felt. We're going to be seeing a lot more interesting, mythologies and all kinds of things coming from there. Anyway, that's a different topic.
it is.
But I heard you had a hard cutoff at 10 o'clock. It is now 10.
Yes. So we do need to cut off for now, but
Yeah.
this has been
Let me
good.
close out.
All right.
Yeah. So we have been the Story Players. Thank you so much for listening. I have been Winston Powell, otherwise known as Acorn Bringer. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr. I even have Reddit. Find me all over at Acorn Bringer, and you can follow along with my development. I'm working on a game called Of Love and Eternity. And Zach, where can people find you?
People can find me at Wildkind Creations, WILDKIND Creations, CREATIONS, and we are pivoting. So we're gonna make a smaller game. We were making a rugby rhythm game, and now we're gonna make a smaller thing. That's a whole conversation, but yeah, we make video games too. What's that?
Where are you on social media?
Oh yeah, I guess I'm trying to be more active on Instagram and TikTok. I have not posted lately just because life's been insane. But yeah, Instagram, TikTok. I post on LinkedIn here and there too, but that platform should burn to the ground. So yeah, don't ever.
We'll get on the ground floor on this new game, this new Wildkind game,
Yeah.
and follow along.
Sorry, I know the tone shifted a bit at the end there, but I did get a little bit frustrated because
That's anytime I talk to you, there's tonal shift.
oh man, it's so hard not to be impassioned about this stuff because it's like, fuck, man, the world could be so much better if we just didn't have a whole bunch of shitheads making these decisions. And
There'll be a comeuppance sometime.
We just need to empower good people to do great things. That's all. That's all. Why is it so hard? We can do it. We can do it, everyone.
I think it'll balance out. This has been the games industry has been in kind of just like shooting rocket. It's got to come down at some point and find its like orbit.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
How far can I take this metaphor?
Buy local and go on itch. Do your part.
Mm-hmm.
Do your part.
Locally grown indie games.
Locally grown indie games. There you go. All right, buddy. This has been fun. Thank you.
It's been good to talk to you.
All right.
Let's try it again for next week too. We could do it again.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
All right.
Yep.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later.